The crisis at the border reaching a grim new milestone.
Yeah, Fox News exclusively learning that more than 200,000 people, 200,000 migrants, have been released into the United States after claiming to be part of a family unit.
So what changes does Congress need to make? We've got former Assistant Secretary of State for George W. Bush, Robert Charles, joins us now with what he thinks the answer should be. Let me ask you, first of all, now there are 200,000 migrants. They claim to be part of family units, and that's my question for you. How do we know that they, in fact, are family units when about 11,000 of them are unaccompanied minors among those who have illegally crossed into this country, meaning that many of these minors are complete strangers to the families that drag them across the border because their own parents are actually selling them and then allowing them to be abandoned in fields, and now these children are unaccounted for?
So these are good questions. Just for context, I'll say this is not an insoluble problem, but it is absolutely a crisis. And by way of example, last month, 144,000 undocumented border crossers were apprehended. In that group, 84,000 were family units. The 11,000 you're talking about were above and beyond that 84,000. In March, from March 19th until today, we have released 75,000 of these family units into the American public. So what's the answer? The answer is sort of layered. In the near term, we have to get Mexico to keep these asylum-seeking families on the Mexican side of the border, which is what the president initially has tried to do here. The second thing is Mexico has to sort of own up and become a safe third country so they can claim asylum there. That's the way the system usually works. We have to get more asylum judges, frankly, transfer some administrative law judges and get them out there so that we can process these claims. In the medium term, we need to ultimately pass some immigration legislation. The president has put it forward. You know, frankly, I think the Democrats ought to take yes for an answer, put some DACA numbers on that and make it happen. You know, 144,000, that's a city the size of Bridgeport, Connecticut, or Savannah, Georgia. It's a big number, and it's coming in every month. If you added the DACA kids into the immigration bill, that's half that number. Get it done now. Finally, you got to go back into these countries and realize that without rule of law, and we worked in a lot of these countries, without rule of law and an incentive to stay there, we're going to keep having this problem. So we've got to work on that, too.
Yeah, it'll be tremendously interesting to see how the changes that Mexico says they're going to make now, because they're worried about these tariffs, and I do think they're scared of the tariffs, make a difference. They're going to send 6,000 of their troops down to their border with Guatemala. Yeah. Let me read you a tweet, though, from Chuck Schumer. This is from yesterday. In February, real Donald Trump declared a bogus emergency to build a wall. He said we'll solve immigration. Then he made a bogus tariff threat even GOP and Congress rejected. Now he claims a bogus deal Mexico volunteered to do months ago. Common thread. All bogus. We all know it. How is Congress going to change anything when they still clearly, as their leaders say, think this is a fake crisis, and they don't really seem like they want to solve it?
Yeah, so it's a very real crisis, and I'm happy to give numbers that validate that. You know, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are becoming sort of the dynamic duo, a two-party, a party of no, of two of them, and they're leading their caucuses, I think, in the wrong direction. What's the constructive thing that's happened? The president has linked trade with security. He's done it all over the world, and he's done it here very effectively. In 8 days, he got real expectations on the table. He put tariffs on the table as the consequence. The other thing to note here is that the president is encouraging deterrence. That's what his entire platform is about. He's trying to encourage these folks to stay back, not to flood our borders. And what are the Democrats doing? They're promoting the idea of sanctuary cities. You know, no coincidence that the top 10 sanctuary cities in this country are also the top 10 homeless cities in this country.
We got to ask you. Sorry, continue your thought.
No, I just think, you know, there's a clear answer here, and it is to pass the immigration package, work together, and stop being a party of no. There's too much at stake here. Average Americans in both of their districts, by the way, California and New York are the two states with the largest homeless populations in sanctuary cities.
Nancy Pelosi, we need to ask you about this before we run out of time here. She has slammed the president once again and his immigration deal with Mexico. But isn't the left the party that's failing on immigration? I mean, here she's saying that President Trump undermined America's preeminent leadership role in the world by recklessly threatening to impose tariffs on our close friend and neighbor to the south. Threats and temper tantrums are no way to negotiate foreign policy. Isn't it these tariffs that are actually, in fact, making things happen? I mean, Mexico has deployed troops to the border with Guatemala. This is the kind of pressure that Mexico needs to take responsibility. So then why is the left crying foul?
Yeah, listen, you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And a lot of people, the average American is very smart. They look at this situation, they understand that one party here is being very political and putting up obstacles and obstruction. You know, this is the same Nancy Pelosi who, while the president was on his way to Normandy, said he ought to be in prison. We don't really behave that way normally, institution to institution. So I'm encouraged by what the president's doing, and I hope the Democrats come along.
Okay, Robert, hey, thanks so much. We appreciate your time this morning.
Yes,
and
sir.
We'll be right back.